Welcome back, fellow Earthlings. My name is Rogan, and you are watching The Mysterious Stoner in a Bowler. In the introduction video to my channel, I talked about how I want to make the world a better place, but I did not mention specifically in what ways. I did regarding the channel itself, but this channel is... it's a means to an end, you might say. And what that end is what I'm going to tell you about in this video. Now, if you recall, something else I mentioned in my introduction video was that I am not the only person out there like myself. And I was not referring to my appearance or how I choose to speak. If you happen to be joining us for the first time, I discovered within the last few years that I have a condition called R.T.S, Religious Trauma Syndrome. I didn't talk about it a whole lot. I really just glazed over it in my life story because there's a lot I had to cover. But I want to talk about it a bit more in this video because this is a big part of why I am here. Religious trauma syndrome is very similar to PTSD. It has its own syndromes. Some of them are similar to PTSD, but it's very much its own thing. And where it comes from, or how someone gets it, I guess you could say, is like PTSD. Where a lot of soldiers get PTSD from being in combat, military, very extremely stressful situations. Religious trauma syndrome occurs when an individual has lived in a religion or in a cult for a good portion of their lives, or took it very seriously, and then left it. They discovered it was bullshit, or they were perhaps driven out by being abused by someone in the religion that made them leave. And to better help describe to you the symptoms of religious trauma syndrome, I have found a website called restorationcounselingseattle.com, and I'm going to read from their page, and because it's a very good description of what religious trauma syndrome is. And as I go down the symptoms, I will share with you some of the ones that I have had. I won't get into too much detail because there's a good bit. My sister, who also has R.T.S, has her own unique symptoms as well, but we will go over those as we go down through the website. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, just the bit of that applies, because I was not in a cult. I was a Christian at one point for much of my life, and a good bit of my story is all about that. I was a missionary kid as well, and so watch my life story. I talk about all that and everything up to the here and now. So, without further ado, let's get into this website. So, when you go onto their website, where I'm reading this is from, when you go onto their website and you go over to under the category that says issues, and that is where I am reading from about R.T.S. It says, religious trauma syndrome is a group of symptoms that arise in response to traumatic or stressful religious experiences. While religious trauma syndrome is not an official diagnosis in the DSM-5, it is a common experience shared among many who have escaped cults, fundamentalist religious groups, abusive religious settings, or other painful experiences with religion. The symptoms of religious trauma syndrome are comparable to the symptoms of complex PTSD. Religious trauma syndrome is in the early stages of research and is gaining traction as a legitimate diagnosis. Below are some symptoms commonly experienced by people suffering from religious trauma syndrome: confusing thoughts and reduced ability to think critically. This one, I don't know if that has affected me or not, because I grew up very sheltered, and how you are raised and the information that you have does affect how you do at thinking critically. But I think what they are referring to here is probably more of a more directly mental issue. Negative beliefs about self, others, and the world. Absolutely. I was taught to think very low of myself, to have no sense of pride or achievement in myself. Everything that I was ever complimented on was to be redirected to God, because God gave me the ability to use my talents and all that. So it took me a long time to learn that there was such a thing as healthy pride. Pride can actually be good for you. Too much is bad. Definitely bad. But that is something I still sometimes struggle with today. Trouble making decisions. About the same as the reduced ability to think critically, I'd say. Or indecisiveness. That has been an issue for me on and off, but I don't think at an abnormal rate, I would say. Feelings of depression, anxiety, grief, anger, lethargy. Definitely the first four. A lot of the first four. Lethargy, well, I did experience that for a time, but I was able to change my own mindset to motivate myself a lot more, and I'm very grateful for that. But grief, anger, I still experience those from time to time. Depression, by this point, I've almost completely gotten over it, but it is still... I mean, I'm still alive, so I like to think that I've won the war, but there are still battles to be fought before the war is over. And I would say anxiety is by far the one that I still deal with quite a bit on a regular basis. A sense of feeling lost, directionless, and alone. Definitely feeling alone. Honestly, I've felt alone for most of my life, even while living at home with my parents, because of the type of attention they gave me, and because my siblings were all significantly older than myself. So being alone has always been an issue for me. And it did increase even more so after leaving religion, because most of my contacts and friends were almost entirely religious. I had my sister, who had left Christianity long before I had. She was the one person that didn't make me feel completely alone. A lack of pleasure or interest in things you used to enjoy. No, that is not one of the issues that I have personally dealt with. Other people perhaps, but this one doesn't affect me. A loss of community, family, friends, romantic relationships. Well, fortunately, the ending of a romantic relationship was partly why I left religion. it was a huge part, but it wasn't the sole reason at all. Like it was 50%. Now, I did lose a number of friends. Of course, some of them did reach out to me as soon as they found out that I left Christianity, and some have on and off tried to contact me again. And honestly, it's difficult for me because pretty much all they want to talk about is me coming back to Christ, why I left, and it's not an easy thing for me to talk about. To a lot of people, over and over again, that's difficult. It's difficult just to do it one time. And there's so much that goes into it. That's why I shared my entire life story, because you have to know everything that happened in order to understand why I left Christianity. And it's made being friends with Christians in general very difficult, with the exception of one, which just so happens to be my best friend. He's a Christian, but he's not like my parents. My parents, and most of the Christians they affiliate with, can be very judgmental, and my best friend, he knows. He doesn't have to tell me anything. He respects my choice, and I respect his choice for what he chooses to believe. We've managed to get over it, so I haven't lost everyone. And plus, I gained a really great close relationship with my sister, because we have so much in common. It's ridiculous. But losing that connection with other people did add to the feeling of loneliness and isolation, which happens to be the next symptom. Feeling isolated, or a sense that you don't belong. Yes, I have felt both of those quite a lot, and it's been hard for me. I've had to really change my mind about some things, and I had to choose to try and heal and improve myself. And over time, I eventually overcame that feeling of not belonging. It's difficult, and it was a long journey to get there, because Christianity teaches you that you don't belong on earth, that your soul belongs to God in heaven, and that to not get attached to this earth and the things that are in the world. And then leaving Christianity, it was like, well, I didn't know I didn't, aside from my sister, I didn't know anyone who had been through what I had. And so I felt almost even more like I didn't belong in some ways, because I'm such a strange and different type of human. But later on, I came to discover I'm not the only one. Feeling behind the times with cultural happenings. This has never gone away for me. As soon as I discovered how sheltered I was, that was traumatic. In a way, because there was so much I had missed out on, and the more I live, the more I discover I missed out on. I still have people tell me, "You've never seen this movie, you've never heard this song, it's a classic." You've never done this, you've never heard of this person. That's what happens when you homeschool a child for their entire kindergarten through 12th grade education and take them overseas to a different country. And yeah. And other symptoms of PTSD, including nightmares, flashbacks, disassociation, and emotional difficulty, etc. The nightmares are definitely a thing I have had multiple times, and my sister has also had them as well. Not the same ones, obviously, but for both of us, our dreams that we have are, when we have them, are about our parents, unfortunately. And I don't want to go into all the details, but it brings back a lot of the feelings that we had growing up around them, being heavily judged, always having to worry about being on our best behavior, hoping that they don't catch us doing something we shouldn't, or a lot of times even having nightmares about them taking part in our adult lives. Flashbacks, absolutely. Especially with music. I'm a huge fan of music, and I feel like I have a strange connection to music, so it affects me greatly sometimes when I hear Christian music. It can really bring back a lot of memories, and I really have to control myself, and that can sometimes bleed over into the emotional difficulties and challenges that I have to deal with. And I have some emotions that I don't understand why I am the way I am in certain situations. Nothing dangerous and unpredictable or anything like that. The disassociation has also been a struggle for me. Getting close with people in general has always been a very hard thing. I wasn't close to either of my parents growing up. I thought I was close to my mom growing up, but later on I realized I wasn't as close as I thought I was. Or I should say, she wasn't as close to me as I thought she was. But, and not growing up around peers my own age and developing social skills, yes, disassociation comes along with it. Plus, being introverted doesn't help that much either. One thing that is not on this list, actually, is something my sister has. She has a physical reaction to being in contact with my parents and seeing them. Not physical contact, but like going to visit them. And sometimes even while just speaking to them over the phone. She really doesn't enjoy it. She does sometimes, but she will actually break out into hives. And the last, well, I went with her to visit my parents a while back, and she got physically ill for much of the time that we were down there. And when we left, she felt a lot better, knowing that she wouldn't have to see them again. But she was nauseous, and she had to go to the drugstore to get meds to make her feel better and everything while we were there. And it wasn't a good experience. And for her, I was alright, but her story, neither of us know why
exactly, or how there might be a way to control it. She doesn't seem to have any control of it, but otherwise she's, in some ways she is better developed than I am. But she has that, and I have not heard of anyone else having physical R.T.S. reactions, but she is a case for that. Hopefully not too many other people have that, but at least one does. And then I'm just going to read these last two paragraphs and then that will be it. Religious trauma syndrome is often caused for different reasons for different people. Many people experience R.T.S. as a result from an authoritarian religion or faith community. Individuals suffering from R.T.S. may be struggling with black and white thinking, irrational beliefs, difficulty trusting oneself, low self-esteem, or feeling indebted to a group of people. Skewed views of sex, discipline, emotional regulation, relationships, and self-expression are usually present in toxic religious environments. If you think you may be struggling with religious trauma syndrome, you are not alone. There are many out there struggling with the same feelings you are, and there is hope for healing. Through talk therapy and EMDR, you can regain power over who you are and who you want to be. You can move past relationships that are too painful to think about. You can move past memories that are too painful to think about and begin creating the life you want to live. Struggling with black and white thinking, I think that's right and wrong. There is no gray area. Struggling with that sort of thing, I believe that's what it's referring to. Irrational beliefs, difficulty trusting oneself, low self-esteem, or feeling indebted to a group of people, skewed views of sex, discipline, emotional regulation, relationships, and self-expression. Almost every single one of those things are things that I have personally struggled with as a result of religion. And some of those I still struggle with quite a bit today. And that last sentence is true for anyone, not just people with R.T.S. You can move past memories that are too painful to think about. And you can begin creating the kind of life that you want to live. Now, I'm going to have to admit, because the way my life has gone, I have never been able to get therapy myself. Professional therapy, anyways. I've simply never been able to afford it. And in my own opinion, I think I'm actually doing pretty good to where I might not need therapy anymore. Although, if I had the opportunity for an examination, I'd take it anyways, just to see what the results were at least. But there are people out there who have been through significantly worse things than I have, who have R.T.S. And their struggles are far bigger than mine and far more intense. And there are so many people out there who have no idea that they're not alone. But they think they are. And they wouldn't know what to do in the real world if they left. And a lot of the people that have left are struggling to get by and can't afford therapy. They're struggling just to survive. I'm struggling just to survive myself. The website mentioned that this is not a really popular concept, religious trauma syndrome. Some people don't think it's real because it hasn't been registered or hasn't had enough people with degrees to say that it is or whatnot. But you can find groups online of people. You can find them on Facebook, probably other websites as well. You can find YouTube channels of people talking about their experiences with leaving Christianity or their whatever their religions were. It doesn't matter what religion you leave, a lot of the times it comes with the religious trauma syndrome. This channel in part is for spreading awareness, but more so what I am looking to do is this. With the future proceeds of this channel, I am looking to create a charity that is dedicated to helping those with religious trauma syndrome to overcome their struggles and difficulties, whatever they may be, however difficult the issue might be for them. I want to see this charity provide free therapy, free education, as in being brought up to date on some of the things for all of the world for those who are sheltered, but also that would also include like actual college, perhaps trade schools, things of that nature, or sponsorships, and also to provide them free financial aid as necessary per individual. I would also love to see a center built around this charity that provides free room and board to people who have left religions or cults and have nowhere to go. In addition to being given free therapy and free financial aid and free education to help them get their feet under them and to be able to take hold of their own life, and as well as go out and be productive and helpful members of society. In short, this charity is to be dedicated to healing the scarred, educating the uneducated, and unsheltering the sheltered. Now, I have never created a charity before, and as far as I know, no other charity exists like what I have just described, specifically for people with religious trauma syndrome. So this could very well be the first of its kind. It will probably take a while to get off the ground. A Patreon account will be set up in the future and will be announced that you can donate money towards building the charity, but that will come in time. But I'm not just looking for charitable donations, I'm also looking for friends and allies who have this passion as well of helping people with religious trauma syndrome. Now, if you would like to help create this charity, but you don't have the time to be able, or energy, or availability to be able to help create it, or you don't have the spare money to donate towards it, I completely understand. Don't feel bad about it. But you can still be a big help by liking, sharing, subscribing to my videos, and just spread the word. Share my videos, and by sharing my videos, you are helping to create awareness for religious trauma syndrome. Let people know that it exists, and by all means, look up other people who have gone through similar experiences. Look up other people on YouTube who have left religion. Give them some love and attention. Share their stories. Anything you can do to help generate views and exposure for this charity and for people who have R.T.S, it would be a great help. You would be actively helping to make the world a better place just by subscribing, liking, and sharing these videos. And that is it for this video. So, if you've enjoyed it, you have found it educational, or you would like to help towards building this charity, help build this channel with that like, subscribe, and share button. And turn those notification bells on, because in the next video I'm going to be talking about the little game that I would like to play with all of you that involves a one winner prize. So stay safe, my friends, and until next time, farewell.